Okay, welcome back to episode number 58. How is everyone doing?
Man, summer is flying by, right?
Summer with COVID is flying by. Someone's been having an exciting
Daniel
summer.
looking like he's had a couple drinks already, dog. He's ready to sleep.
No, just water. Just water.
No, all good. Very
Good.
well.
How about Ollie? How are you doing? Because I saw on social media that you jumped out. No, you paraglided recently, right?
Yeah.
How
After we did an episode, I said I wasn't going to travel. I ended up traveling, and it was amazing. It was a great experience. Right, I've done skydiving before. That was my first time doing paragliding, and the scenes are just beautiful, beautiful.
P, I tried to convince P a few years ago to do a skydive, but
When? What country?
I thought you were going to do one time, no, and then it didn't work out.
No, Lauren went ahead.
Ah,
And
okay.
She even said to me, she goes, "You want to come and watch?" And I was like, "Look, nah, man, it's cool." I didn't want any part of that whole scenario. I was just like, "Look, I don't know why you're doing it. It's a gift. Go ahead and jump out of a plane." But we got a bright future ahead, so you can make a decision. Up to you.
But you didn't want to do it, right?
After she explained what it's like, I would definitely want to do it. But then the problem is, I always think to myself, what's the point?
Well, why
No.
not?
The
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
And the faith that so I would highly recommend it. I would say skydiving is probably one of the best like activity experience I've ever had. Like
Agreed.
when you're going up in the plane, the way your heart is racing, that you reach a point where you're just putting faith and belief in someone and the equipment to obviously carry you and keep you safe. But I would say nothing compares to it. Like when it's stable, after you drop and then it's stable and you're like, okay, cool, I'm not gonna die. Then you can truly enjoy.
How can you be so sure though?
Because go on.
No, go ahead.
No, because when you go skydiving, there's two parachutes. There's like a small parachute that slows you down. So as soon as that first one goes on, you're basically just cruising and slowing down. And then you got the bigger one, which is more for landing. And you make your peace with God before you jump out of the plane.
Daniel, what do you think? It sounds like it just sounds like what's the point?
Ain't happening. It's non-negotiable. It's not up for debate. It's just not happening.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. The only one I would never do is the bungee jumping.
Bungee jumping.
I would never do that. I would never do bungee jumping.
That snapback is real.
Yeah, I would never do
I think it's also, especially with P, your kneecaps, that bungee. Might be a deep problem. Well, no, I'm actually skydiving. I've actually done it twice. I did it the first time in Brazil. I had a horrible experience, and then did it again in Australia, which was much better. But the first time I nearly vomited.
Okay, you nearly vomited. I was like,
yeah, I nearly vomited.
Experience. But they tell you there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do, like don't eat just before doing it, no drinking the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't adhere. But I think we're digressing a little bit. So Olu, because we started that around the fact that you went to Turkey and you did this experience, but holding on to that topic of you moving to Turkey, I think that's not moving, but you traveling to Turkey. That's kind of the topic of today's episode, right?
Yeah, I was sort of a hypocrite the last episode that we had. So I thought it would be good just to go through and talk about our travel experience. I think 3 out of 4 of us have traveled during COVID. I thought it would be good for us to share our experience, what we think, what we felt went well, what we felt didn't go well, and just talk about what we feel or see the travel industry sort of changing to. Are we going to see more people traveling, or are we going to see this change, especially as we hear about the second wave of COVID coming?
So guys, before we start the music and start the episode, just a quick small request. We are a small but growing podcast, and what we'd love is a little bit of your support. all we're asking is please go on the Apple Podcast app on your phone, select Take Flight Podcast, and please leave us a review. 5 stars would be appreciated. Anything less than that, then just text us. You don't need to leave a review on the app. But I would really appreciate your support, your love. This is a passion project that we are continuing, and with that support, we'd really appreciate it. So thank you for that. Go on the Apple Podcast app on your phone, leave a 5-star review, and tell us what you like about the podcast. Thank you. And with that, we can start the music.
So stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. We never fly, but we're flying.
So Ollie, you got back. You went to Turkey because I noticed you got like more hair in your beard. So what else did you do when you was in Turkey?
Oh, you're talking about the plastic surgery that got done?
Is that why he's wearing a hat as well? Is that why he's wearing a hat?
I'm noticing a lot more the hair sticker. So what did you do?
So I got some hair removed from the back of my hair to my beard. I've been trying to grow a beard for a long time, so now finally, no. No, so I went to Fethiye in Turkey, and I booked a flight 2 days before going. The reason why I booked it so close to traveling was just because of everything was just changing with the countries that you could travel to, the countries that if you come back, you have to quarantine. So I thought the best way to ensure that I wasn't disappointed or I ended up in a country where I would have to quarantine when I got back was to book it close to when I was traveling. So I booked it two days before flying out. Hotels were dirt cheap. Flights were good price, couldn't complain. And I booked it.
Question. You said hotels were dirt cheap. Is that where you were staying? Because usually when you go away, you do like a room tour, but I didn't see any room tour.
Oh, I can show you.
Daniel came ready with that question. Daniel came ready.
I'm just saying.
That's
no
true.
problem. I could post. I could post the hotel I was staying. I was staying at Jiva Beach Resort. You can check that, all inclusive. 5-star, right on the beach. But as you grow up, and you mature, you realize that it's not about showing everything on the gram anymore.
Is it?
Yeah. All right. Okay, Ollie. All right.
Back in the day when I was just first traveling, every time I checked in, I was showing everyone the lights and the glam. Now I thought, you know what? Let me just keep it low key. And also, a lot of my friends and followers listen to the podcast, and I said I wasn't going to travel. So then I was trying to keep it a little bit on a lower profile. But yeah, so
you sound like it was a good experience.
Oh, it was. So the experience flying out wasn't the best. In fact, I was supposed to meet Pabilo at the airport because you also flying,
I remember.
Flying back to Basel, and the airport was extremely packed.
Really?
I was not expecting that. So after talking to Shiwal, you mentioned that flying out was quite empty, right? I was surprised that my experience was more. It was just completely packed.
When was it that you traveled?
Sunday the 2nd of August.
Okay, so few.
So, and I think most families had already started traveling for like their summer holiday trips. So there was massive lines. Normally, if anyone knows how I travel, I normally get to the airport maybe an hour max before my flight. This time I got there 2 hours before my flight, and there was long lines, long queues. My flight out there was pretty much fully packed. It was full capacity. Everyone had mask on. My expectation was that there was going to be like a gap between you and the passenger, but everyone was just sort of cramped on, which was a surprise to my seeing.
So would you recommend that part of Turkey to anyone that's thinking about going on a holiday now?
Yes. The reason why is where I went, Fethiye, is more of it's a quieter location. It's not like the popping spots in terms of Turkey, where people are going there for more party and the younger scene. This was more like people that retired and moved out to Turkey to live. So it was beautiful, really near right next to the coast, to the beach. But but it wasn't too packed and busy. So my flying experience out there was, I would say, it wasn't the best. But as soon as I landed, my experience during the holiday was perfect. There were social distancing rules in the hotels. You would have to wear your mask. Near the swimming pool and stuff like that. They made sure that the seats were spread out in a way where you can suntan. If anyone's noticed, I've been tanning a little. You can suntan, and it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I can tell you're blending into your paint.
But that's green.
But from the lighting, it's blending in. It looks like you're on a green screen.
You went to a quiet place during COVID, so there must have been no one there.
No, so the hotel wasn't at full capacity. I would say probably 30-40% capacity at that time, which is obviously why they were doing the hotel rooms for half price, as well, to try and incentivize people to come. But I was also able to go on all the excursions. So I went paragliding. I was able to go scuba diving, quad biking as well. So everything was pretty much open during the time I was there. It was just a situation where you're social distance if possible, and when you're transporting from one place to another, you'd have your mask on. So, yeah.
So
and
then sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to talk about my flight back. But my flight back, that was amazing. That was beautiful. The flight was completely empty. Turkey's airport, empty, social distancing, hand sanitizers here and there, limited contact with people, or on your way there.
It's funny because some people would actually be, even though they understand what's happening in the environment that we're living in, some people would be a lot more concerned with an empty airport, because then it's almost like I'm the only one traveling, I'm the only one in the plane. But then when you got the reverse, like also I experienced also on that Sunday, where the entire airport is pretty much full. I've never seen it as full before. Instead of that making you feel more comfortable about traveling, you're more thinking, oh, I don't know if I should actually, why are so many people here? I was shocked. Like I was saying to Lauren, we were talking about, so I flew back from London to Basel on the 2nd of August. And we basically kept on saying, even we're gonna get there early because of Karen, but we don't expect there to be anyone. So comfortable journey to the airport. We got a big enough van to make sure it accommodated for us and we didn't have to worry. Then as the van was pulling up, I've never seen Terminal 5 so busy. But I almost got concerned to the point where I was like, is something wrong? Right? It was like packed.
Were people wearing masks that were coming in?
Yeah, they're wearing masks. But to be honest, this whole mask stuff, man, I can't breathe in the mask that I wear. It's ridiculous. So I'm like putting my mask below my nose. I don't really, anyway, that's another story. I don't really buy into it. So we get into the airport and literally, like it was like, you had to queue up, and you know when they've made the queue the longest possible because they've stretched out all of the belts or whatever the case may be. And I was saying to
also having to keep space between the person in front of you as well, which also stretches it out as well. Yeah.
So you really had to get to your flights. I would even say much earlier than before. No one was distancing at all. Everybody was standing. It was almost basically what it was. It was just an airport packed of people wearing masks. But nobody was keeping the distance. And I think that's a bit of a concern because some people actually want to keep the distance for their own health and others are not even thinking about it. So you have to, if you are that person, you have to remind people, please give me some space or put your luggage in their way so they don't come too close.
Because I guess this was on your flying, I guess this is the second time flying with Karim. The first time obviously when you brought him to the UK. How was it for him?
Yeah, so it was not to flex actually, and I didn't know until we actually checked on our tickets. What helped is that we actually had business class flights on the way back. But what that meant is that we had space.
That's a flex, right?
It's not a flex. It's not a flex. The reason why it's not a flex is because British Airways, what they did, interesting enough. Wait, listen. When I went to go check in, they offered like extra luggage.
Yeah.
What?
This guy is dumb.
But what they did, I should have called Daniel. Daniel could have helped me understand the ropes.
Daniel's already got enough points racked up
What
already.
they did, yeah, is they disguised it as business. I felt like if they had said, "Do you want to upgrade to business class?" you would have said no.
Yeah.
But because they said, "Do you want extra luggage?" and it means you can get like 3 luggages per person, something crazy. Like I said, yeah, it's fine. I don't want to bother count my weight. But what it actually meant was it was business class flights. Because when I got it was like seat 4C. I said, "Whoa!" I said, "Lauren, what's going on?" Well, we said, "What business?" Yeah. So going back to your question, it really helped because there was space. And to be honest with you, I think if we were to fly, I would probably consider sitting at the front because you have that kind of, it's almost like this feeling of, okay, I know it sounds bad, but I'm not so rammed up in the back with the economy. I've got a bit of space.
Oh, sorry.
That's honestly how it feels. Honestly how it feels. But
people like us.
This is listen to this though. This is why I think this whole thing is a joke, right? Imagine, you know how business class works. They close the curtains after a while, yeah? You guys will find this funny. They said on the plane, they made an announcement. Due to all of the COVID situation and restrictions that we're putting in place and the health, we are not going to be serving any food. So I was, and I said, I was like, oh, because I wanted a little juice, man, a little something. You know what I mean? Listen to what I'm saying to you. They closed the curtains, yeah? And they pulled out trolleys of food for business class only. And I kid you not, bro. I kid you not. And you know what's funny? Yeah, it was almost like a reflection in life where you was like, this is how the world works. They always offer something else to the upper class or whatever when they said it wasn't available. Like literally, and it was like sandwich bags. It was like bags of lunch. So you had sandwich in there, muffins in there, juice in there, unlimited. And I was thinking, but didn't you just say for health reasons you're not serving food?
That's crazy.
Man, like Jack was just running the food, and I said, "Whoa!" Meanwhile, everyone in the back, yeah, behind the curtain, goes without. So I thought that was quite that kind of maybe to a part of this podcast. It added to the experience. That made it quite nice. So, but Karen was great. Karen was great up until the point we had to descend because he I think it started to get to his ears. So I had to basically shove the milk down him and say, "Look, drink this and shush, man." And then it went up. What we did though, innit? We shoved it down his neck. So because he was kind of refusing it. I was like, look, don't refuse it. Trust me, this is what you need. And then when we got out the other end, I was more concerned about getting stopped by security because we had too much luggage. And so all they did, they asked a question. But I think when you've got a baby, it's cool. I think so it was fine. And then when we got to the other end, this is just to complete my experience of traveling. We had a taxi ordered. And I kept on calling the number because at one point it was like 5-10 minutes late. And it happened to be there was a taxi was right in front of us. The guy was just chilling. So only till I started walking around and I said, "Oh, I'm trying to. How much do you cost? Because the guy that I'm trying to order is not going to come, and you're the vehicle that we need." He says, "Oh, I'm waiting for Pabilo." I said, "Bro, I've been here for like 45 minutes, bro." And the thing about it, I've seen this guy come out his car.
Didn't he have a sign?
He didn't use it. He didn't use it. He only used it when I came to him.
Oh, okay.
And I only came to him to check the price. So yeah, that was all good. And then we got home. But yeah, no. So I think I wouldn't recommend. I don't know. Would I recommend someone to travel? Personally, I just think people should just sort of keep a low profile until next year, and see how things go. But it also depends on your perspective and risk appetite to this whole COVID situation. If you don't believe it, you're going to travel. I believe it, but I still traveled. Yeah. Well, believe its impact the way it's been portrayed. That's my point. So of course it does exist, but they've mixed. Well, that's another topic, isn't it? But so yeah. But
one question. Yeah. So that was obviously the travel experience. How have you found it being in another country? So for the listeners, you've been on paternity leave for pretty much this whole year. And this was traveling back to Switzerland with your family. So how's it been back in Switzerland? Yeah,
here is the thing about it. Unfortunately, UK has been probably the worst and mismanaged country in the entire of Europe, because in other parts of Europe, it hasn't been like that, right? So the lockdown hasn't felt as strict. We came back here and learned that it pretty much was normal, apart from the fact that corporations has kind of closed down. You work from home. So if we had been in Basel the entire time, we would not have definitely not had the same experience. We would have been able to travel, move around, and go to the places that we went to when we actually arrived. So I empathize with people back home because obviously I have family back home, but it was nice for us to get back and just kind of get back into home, because at some point it was kind of like towards the end of staying in the UK, it was almost like this kind of stuck period. It was like you're not in COVID, but you're still practicing. You're not in lockdown, but you're still practicing as if you are in lockdown.
You're restricted.
You don't. Yeah, it was weird. So I just felt like I was saying to Lauren, look, we just got to go, man. This is diminishing returns for us, man. Like I'm just going backwards in my productivity. So yeah, so no, it's been great. It's been great, and I think most importantly, Karim's he's tucked in nicely to lifestyle here in the apartment. So that's been good.
I could tell from Lauren's stories on Instagram, Karim has been getting busy around Basel.
Tell you, man, he's out here, man. He's out here.
What about you, Shiwa? You traveled home, right?
Yes, I think I was probably the only one out of the quartet that had said pretty openly in the last episode that I planned to travel. At that point, I had only planned a trip to Croatia.
Mate, you didn't just travel; you went on tour. Come on, man! Don't play it down, bro. I went on tour, bro.
So tour. So basically, I went to Croatia, and this was early July. And for the listeners in the Nordic countries, so I'm based in Stockholm primarily. Most people take July off, so even if I wanted to be in the office, there wasn't really much I could do, and everything else I just slowed down trying to take the full break. Traveled to Croatia. I think this is where I relayed the feedback to Olu that flying was okay, hotels were empty, because at that stage in July it was. Croatia was great, beautiful weather, good food, nice people, and it was a good break. And then because that went so well, I went back to Stockholm and I thought, actually, you know what, traveling's not too bad now. Let me make the most of this downtime. So then I looked at where I could fly to from Stockholm, went to Portugal for a week, learned how to surf, ate my body weight in salt water, but that was really fun.
Didn't you just learn how to swim a couple of years ago, and now you're jumping
into
in
Japan, like 4 years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago.
I'm not gonna lie. I was concerned. I was thinking like there's a small chance that this thing ain't gonna work out, B. So I was like, because it just didn't sound right. Like just about learn how to swim. Because remember, there's a difference between swimming and being a strong swimmer. You went to a place where if you get knocked off, you got to learn how to be a strong swimmer.
And that coast of Portugal is basically renowned for having some of the largest waves in Europe. But just to clarify, where I say learn surfing, that doesn't mean we're going kilometers away from the shore. They do keep it relatively managed, and I had a really good surf instructor in school.
Did you have a vest on as well,
Yeah, you got like a full-on wetsuit. First time I've been wearing one of those.
But to Daniel's point on Olu, I ain't seen no videos, to be honest. I didn't see no videos of you surfing. What's going on?
Yeah, but it wasn't that kind of vibe. It wasn't that kind of vibe because I can't tell my instructor because he's coming in the ocean with me. I was there with a friend, but she's also in the water with me. So what are we going to do? There's a group of us, so it didn't really work. You got to take my word for it.
Please record me as I'm surfing, yeah.
But no, then if you guys want any lessons, just holler at me. I can.
No, it's cool.
No, I'm good.
But no, other than that, I went back to Stockholm again. I wanted to look at kind of trips. Where can I go? I also went to Turkey, similar to Olu. I went to an area called.
You forgot.
Really bad.
You're trying to skip past the experience. You Turkey for what?
Roulette when it comes to traveling.
Antalya. Yeah, went to Antalya. Sorry. Also similar to Olu, I stayed in a really nice hotel, all inclusive. It was nice, good weather, chill by the pool, good food. Topped up my tan, and yeah. Then after that, flew directly to London, and I've been here since. So it's been 2.5 weeks.
How long was you in Turkey for?
Probably the last thing that I would add is since during that period of me coming here, the company that I work for in my day job, same as Pabilo, they basically changed the policy where it's called now choice with responsibility. So now, if you want to work remotely from where you are, as long as you manage your work well, you just need to inform your line manager rather than get consent from them. So now my plan was to come here and fly back to Stockholm last week. But with this now choice with consent, I'm going to work from here in the UK. So this is why my background is not as nice as my Stockholm background. This is my bedroom in the UK, in my parents' home in Portsmouth. I'm going to be here throughout all of August.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just pointing at Ollie, because Ollie was looking at it thinking, Ollie's been talking about basically moving to Bali and where else? Bermuda, innit? Where are they giving 1 year visas?
Bahamas, I think.
Bahamas.
No, that's good. But you have to make sure that the time zone difference works.
Yeah, so
Or-
just to clarify, so the first stage, choice of the responsibility, is you can inform your manager, but it needs to ideally be in your where your contract is resided. And of course, in my case, I'm based in Stockholm. The plan is only to be here for the month of August. They will evolve later on to potentially you working from wherever you want to work, as long as obviously your deliverables are being met.
Ollie's
But that's,
switching.
there's like
Ollie.
tax reasons that they need to clarify. All these
Ollie is switching, dog. Hey, Ollie, we'll put a
yeah,
word in for you. We'll put a word in. The only thing about it is tempting. As tempting it is to go to somewhere like Bali. Can't even get my words out. To your point, Ollie, it makes sense. The time zone is against you. So the way I saw it is kind of for those that are in Europe, you could basically spend a couple months in Portugal, maybe somewhere in Spain, and work from there. To be honest,
Stockholm, come visit your boy. I can host.
yeah, I'll be there soon, permanent still. Say nothing.
You're moving to Stockholm.
No, it's not. No, I'm playing.
I'll book a trip to visit you.
But yeah, no, it's so with I guess that's another topic maybe for next time. Just in terms of with that new policy, how we changing our work situation. But Daniel, travel plans or are you booking anywhere?
Because you had a trip to you also had to go to Turkey or something, right?
He had trips lined up.
I've got a trip to Turkey next month, which is
Swear down. No, what's going on with this Turkey thing? Swear down.
I tell you, we're all getting surgery.
Let me show you.
Oh, man.
You didn't get the discount code.
What?
P.
Look, I got to touch up my hairline.
You want to get your hairline back?
Oh my!
Terminal
Wait,
five.
it doesn't say.
I think it's
Oh wait, no, there you go.
When you flying? September. Okay. So what's happening with Turkey? Why is everyone just
It's the vibe. Food.
P, you want to get your hair? You want to get your hairline back? If you want to get your hairline back, you can come to Turkey. I know a doctor out there. We'll sort you out.
But Daniel, because I think in the last episode you were saying that you're still thinking whether to go or not. But has your thinking changed over the last weeks or month?
I guess
Not
so.
really. So this trip was booked back in I think December last year.
Oh, okay.
So it's nothing recent. It's nothing new. I was more inclined to see how things panned out. What the word on the street is with regards to traveling post COVID and what Turkey's laws are and what the self quarantine may be going and returning. Since nothing's been announced yet, I had two colleagues that are from Turkey. Both have been there for the past 2 weeks. Have come back recently. They've had good experiences. Both Olu and Charles have had good experiences, so I'm not against going. But should anything change between now and then, I'd have to reassess. But as of now, it looks like we're going. But we're going to Istanbul, which is, of course, not the capital, but maybe considered the commercial capital. Mm-hmm. So it's likely to be a lot busier than Antalya or other parts, or Bodrum. Well, Bodrum's actually busy right now. But so it's interesting to see how things pan out. So that's the only trip the rest of the year that's booked. I doubt there'll be anything else booked this side of the year. So we'll just see how things go.
Let me ask you a question, because your hairline is fine. You got a beard. So what are you going over there to do?
So the reason the real reason why Turkey was booked is I had a lot of Avios and it cost for 2 tickets £2, £1 each.
I'm done
with Avios. So that's the reason why, and also it's a country that I haven't been to before, and as you know, traveling was something I was really trying to do this year. Unfortunately, COVID out of the plans. So from the map behind, there's still a lot of places I've got to scratch off. So Turkey's one of them. So that's why it's on the cards.
£2.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how Daniel works, man. Daniel's always finding these deals.
But Daniel, I know you spoke about I think it was Fight Club. But how are you building up your points on British Airways? You got a British Airways credit card specifically?
No, I've got nothing affiliated to BA. The only thing I did have was club card points that I started collecting from Tesco from 2008. So when we were at university, I was collecting them, but then I switched them over a couple of years to Virgin because that was my preference for long haul flights. So with the Avios, I can't remember how I started accumulating quite a lot.
Daniel's that kind of guy. He's living off the interest from the principal, cuz you're still rolling, dog.
Something happened. Oh yeah, so no, I do recall now. So when I was traveling with work, BA was the flight of preference with work. So having booked first class tickets, first class flights and business class, they also built up and put me on different tiers.
Just a quick side note for our loyal listeners, in case anyone wants to learn more about these travel tips, back in episode 13, we did an episode called How to Travel Across the World for Less Than £300. In that episode, Daniel actually goes through some of the tips and tricks that he does to book flights like this and go to these destinations for less than £10. So tune into that one.
Thank you.
Your plugins are getting so serious, man.
So
how do we transition? So now we've heard about
Daniel mentioned something really important, right? Because you're basically listening to see if anything changes, right? Before you decide to travel to Turkey. Now, we're hearing about this second wave, places like Croatia, Greece, which now they're saying that if you do travel to, I think Spain as well, if you do travel to these countries, when you come back, you have to self-isolate for approximately 2 weeks. And then they're talking about certain places in the UK where we're seeing a spike in COVID. So I wanted to get you guys' views on why this is happening, and if you feel like we're gonna end up going into a second lockdown, or if it's gonna stay stable, the vaccination is gonna come soon. Because I've got my personal views on some of the people traveling, right? I think there's a responsible way of traveling, and there's a irresponsible way of traveling. There's some people that I've been seeing on the gram who are there's no way of me thinking that there was a pandemic 2 months, 3 months ago. Like they're in clubs, shisha pipes, bottle service, all of these stuff in like a crowded space. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Where are they?
Greece. So a bunch of people in Greece where they're traveling, enjoying life, partying, clubbing, etc. And I'm like, that's irresponsible, right? But what's you guys' views? Have you seen it? Do you feel like it's going to be a second wave?
Well, I would say, first of all, that some of this stuff is absolutely bonkers, because when you look at the exempt list for countries that you need to self-quarantine, as of the 15th of August, if you're coming from certain countries, you'd have to self-isolate. But it's stupid. For example, France, Malta, Aruba, I think Turks and Caicos, and Netherlands, I believe. But these are places where Malta, these are places where the case of coronavirus are very, very low. For example, in Turks and Caicos, it's like around 1,000 cases of COVID, but yet they're put on people who arrive from there to self-isolate for 14 days. The UK has around, I think as of yesterday, around 320,000. France has around 219,000. There's Belgium as well. But for small islands like Turks and Caicos and also Aruba, what sense does it make?
Are you looking at it as a percentage of population versus the actual cases? As a percentage of population, those, because like you mentioned, those are small islands, small locations, right? And I think the way that they decide which countries are on the isolation list is not based about the cases, it's based on a percentage of population.
Well, if you ask me, I think it's based on something else, but that's not for this conversation.
Trust me.
Trust me.
I
think I'm on Daniel's side of this as well. It's a bit inconsistent. You just don't really know what it is. And the worst case would be going somewhere and then midway through being there, you're told that you have to self-quarantine, and some people don't have the flexibility with work.
Yeah.
But sorry, are we run the question again? Are we still on the same question?
It was around the second waves and people traveling not responsibly. Where do we see kind of the trend going and why?
Just while P thinks, I think if there was, well, I initially thought that if there were to be a second wave, it would have happened around now. You know, given that the lockdown restrictions were heavily lifted on the 4th of July in the UK. But then forward thinking, as schools return and as a lot of families may have gone on summer holidays to maybe some exotic places, and there's been a lot of, you know, interaction with people, and some countries maybe not taking, or certain parts of countries not taking the restrictions into a very serious matter, returning back to the UK, not self-quarantining and then being exposed to other people, that's where the spike may happen. For example, Spain has gone back into complete lockdown and done a reverse of all the improvements they've made because the situation there is rife and it's very serious. And I think people want to enjoy, and I think sometimes external circumstances move away logic and common sense. Example being when we last experienced some good weather in the UK a few weeks ago. People, you know, logic, common sense went out of people's heads. People were congregating, doing a lot of things together, which is fine. But people also have to be aware of the risks.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no point enjoying yourself and then crying later because something negative's happened.
It's short-lived.
Yeah.
No, yeah. What about you, P? What's your views?
No, I think overall I just struggle to believe what's true anymore. I've got my own personal opinions for another episode or for offline discussion, but I think I came across. I think if I'm not wrong, there was maybe a report that suggested that the deaths have been mixed up with other forms of deaths, and it's all been lumped into COVID related. Then you look at the sort of recovery rate, and you look at the chances of actually getting it. So it's but then at the same time, although you have this data in your own mind, you still are taking precaution. So it's a bit of a frustrating and an annoying situation because I just feel like as long as you keep your distance and you wash your hands like you should do, you should be fine. I think younger people are okay, but it's my personal opinion. But in terms of moving forward, I don't know. It also depends on. I think maybe the UK is more of a topic than any other country because somewhere like Switzerland is kind of pretty much back to normal. They always have been. So for me, my focus is more how do I manage with work, right? How do I do that? But from a living standpoint, we're only expected to wear masks on the tram. Not everybody's doing that, and they haven't enforced fines. So if you're caught not wearing it, it's so. But let's see. Let's see. I think the biggest question. Let's get straight to it. When the vaccination comes out, eventually, who's taking it? Who's grabbing that?
I'll wait.
Who's grabbing that? Who's grabbing that?
I'll wait to see the reaction. Like
it's when you say that, it reminds you of this. Not a meme. It's like a short clip. It goes, "Well, if you man go first."
Because I vaccination, I saw something that said it's like 50% success rate. I'm like, what's the point of a vaccination that's 50% success rate, and you're going to need to get a top up every single year? I heard similar to like the cold flu.
Sorry, and back to I know we were moving on, but back to second wave question. Typically, September to December is flu season, so. If flu season coincides with COVID, there is then potentially a chance of a second wave, though it increases the likelihood and chance. And if it is flu season, there's likely to be not miscommunication, a confusion or maybe not an understanding of if you've got flu-like symptoms, you're assumed to have COVID. If in flu season you've got flu symptoms, you might not have COVID, you might just have flu.
Yeah.
So it will then create a whole new case of, do I go out? Do I stay? What do I do? What can I do? And as you mentioned with the misrepresentation of figures a few weeks ago from the number of COVID deaths,
misrepresentation.
We don't know what's going to happen here. So it's interesting to see. But going forward in terms of a vaccination, I know myself, I'm not going to take it. And really and truly, when it comes to vaccinations and trials, they're always going to post figures that favors them. You can post the figures that makes the vaccine look bad, or you can post figures that makes the vaccine look good.
I heard the minority community is up first.
But they're also going to try and pose people, fines or implications for those who don't take it.
Yeah, I heard about. I'll pay the fine, man. I'm cool with that.
The thing is, P, say if travel or flights or hotels or restaurants said, unless you take the vaccine, you're not allowed in, would you take it then?
Wait, listen to what I'm saying to you. Listen, there's going to be a large population of people that will not take the vaccination. And there will also be that population of people that will find out how to basically get through life without taking it. So to your question, there will be some form of evidence that you've taken it or not taken it. Mate, listen, papers are getting forged. Listen, come on, man.
But then that's also where the top layer of the cake, as in the high net worth individuals, can pay for that. And I'm just saying, have you got the pockets that deep to pay for it?
They've already been doing it. What you mean, the fine, or you mean the actual vaccination?
I'm talking about the forgery of the certification or whatever it may be to say you've had the vaccination.
Come on, man. We got brothers around the world. Things can happen. Listen, we can make
one business class flight, and now he thinks he's
he thinks he can have a chat with Warren Buffett and Bill.
What I thought he was going to say, because I know I saw also a report to say that suggests that ultra net worth individuals have already taken the vaccination. Some of those individuals based in Russia. But to be honest, it depends on the format. Like, how are they going to evidence whether who's taking it or not? Right? The US is looking worrying because some are saying you can't force vaccinations. Other states are saying it's mandatory. So I think a lot of questions are going to have to be asked, maybe even where you live. Let's see. But everyone taking a vaccination, interesting. I don't know.
Vaccinations, right? The way they'll do it is going through schools, right? Because they used to have like vaccination days, right, where you'll get your jabs at school. So if they want to make sure that everyone does get it, obviously there's going to be a population, older generation that's not going to take it, like you said.
I still got my BCG mark to this day. To this day.
So that's the way.
So I think just one clarifying comment for our listeners. We are not medical experts, and if you do seek medical advice, go to your local GP or expert, because I don't want anyone's life in my hands. We're just giving our opinions and thoughts here.
Sure. Thank you for being responsible.
It's funny because Karim's got vaccinations on Fridays. I might have to say, yo, brother, chill out. Just check everything else apart from
I don't even know if they've got needles big enough for that guy's guns, because the way that his arms are set up, it might need to be a double one. But just while we're on the topic of kind of post-vaccination or post what the world kind of will look like, just focusing again on our discussion today, which is really the main focus has been around kind of travel. When do we think travel will return back to what it looked like in February 2020?
I think this is quite fickle, but I think a lot of us are just saying 1st of Jan 2021. It's just like, get rid of this year and let's move on to next year. There's just this sense of everything will be better next year, and obviously that won't be the case. But I always say Q1 of next year.
You say Q1?
Yeah, Q1 of next year, because I think you need to travel. I think eventually you need to go somewhere else, because otherwise it's just, we haven't traveled somewhere for at least almost 2 years now. So I'd probably say Q1 next year, somewhere maybe within Europe, not too far away, and manage it that way.
What's your guys' predictions?
I'm gonna go with January 2022. So I'm gonna say
to do what?
I'm gonna say it's gonna take a whole another year for everything to recover and get back, because I think what's gonna happen is there's so many companies, like I think Twitter, Google came out saying that they don't expect the employees to come back to work until summer of next year. And I say when big companies release statements like that, they must know something that we don't. So then the vaccinations and everything will come. I think there's going to be an impact with the recession. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs, so traveling won't be the first thing on their mind as well. So I think before we get back to normal traveling and everything gets back, we're probably looking at 2022. And
just so that's when you think travel will go back to where it was pre-COVID. But for you personally, because I think that's also where
me personally,
when do you think you'll start traveling back to how
he's already moving around, isn't it?
I think back to my norm, my personal norm, probably will be summer next year, end of next year. So start planning stuff for next year, mid.
I reckon you'll bounce earlier. I've got a feeling. You'll see those Bali flight tickets and you're going to.
But I said that last podcast.
did.
I booked a
So
trip.
Daniel, what's
So
your take? When do you think travel will return to pre-COVID levels, and when will you personally travel back like how you were traveling before?
If it's personal, from the conversations I had, it looks like January 2021. But that's beyond, that's to a degree, to some degree, it's beyond my control. However, in terms of the economy, I think we're looking at least 2 to 3 years,
Okay.
and or after a vaccine is rolled out into to the public. I feel like the vaccine is almost kind of a sign off to say, yeah, everyone can travel. There's a vaccine, so you're safe. But until then, I don't think we're going to see the same growth and trajectory that we have in the last recent years.
Yeah, because I think looking back now, the level of travel, the flights, how cheap they were, it was just astronomical compared to where it's dropped down to now. So I think on the travel for the rest of the world, I think I'm definitely in agreement with Daniel. What made me laugh, Daniel, is when you answered the personal side of the question, you answered that so quickly that it makes me think you've got some madness planned for January next year.
Bahamas.
No, it's just
Bahamas.
Danny's going to celebrate his birthday party.
No, the reason is because I had some trips lined up for this year that were paid for. So it looks like they'll be moved sooner rather than later, possibly. But that's
So
all.
the airline told you that you need to redeem it before a certain date.
No. Airline gave us 2 years to get a refund or to get a change book.
And you've got a different kind of setup, man.
I think I'm pretty much, so in terms of when the rest of the world will go, I think I'm similar to Daniel. I think it's going to take a couple of years or the vaccine. On a personal basis, honestly, this summer experience I've had made me appreciate the experience of traveling again and how much it gives me energy to recharge. The only concern I had was when I come back to the UK, being around my parents who, in some categorization, you could put them as at risk of getting COVID. If they were, it would be a big impact. But I've been back now for 3 weeks. Everyone around me is healthy and happy. So yeah, let's see. I think on a personal basis, I might already be back in the usual travel routine flow. But let's see how it goes.
My family's traveling. My family's traveling this weekend. So
where are they going?
they're coming to Basel.
Ah, okay.
Well, you're definitely
They're rolling though.
well, you're definitely in the normal traveling. You went to Portugal, Croatia, and Turkey in the space of 1 or 2 months. Yeah, you're traveling.
I think somebody was telling me. I'm not too sure. I can't remember who now, but effectively, a lot of analyst bankers that were, let's say, based in New York, that were on holiday during that. That's probably happened to not just bankers, a lot of people during the March period where COVID kicked off. They basically just said we might as well just basically rent a huge villa here in the island and stay here for however long with our families. So I think what's been interesting is the people that have made almost a better lifestyle through this pandemic to an extent.
And also the knock-on effect, because a lot of those cities like New York, LA, they've got high-end restaurants, hotels, bars, all of this stuff. And those businesses are just getting tanked now because all the people spending money are just out of town. I assume it's probably having a similar impact in London, but let's see. Maybe that's a topic for another episode.
For sure. Cool. No, this was a good episode. Let's wrap up. So hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. I think we've discussed about our personal experiences when it comes to traveling, talking about the second wave and our predictions around the second wave, and then also just in regards to when we feel like flying and everything's going to get back to normal for ourselves personally and for the rest of the world. So Daniel, you want to take us away?
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. See us next week. Catch us next week. Stay well. God bless.
What about email address?
Oh, if you got any feedback for us,
It's been a while.
you can find us on Instagram at Take Flight Podcast or email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com.
Peace.
Cool.
Take off.